Welcome everybody to the ordinary meeting in September here, and I'd just like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners on which the land we meet tonight, and pay my respects to their elders and elders of any other clans that might be joining us tonight. Thank you. Receipt of apologies.
No apologies, Mayor, just acknowledging the two councillors that are on the leave of absence, being Councillor Stewart and Pollard.
Thank you. Requests for leave of absence. Councillors, any? No. Thank you. Declaration of pecuniary and conflict of interest. In accordance with section 132 of the Local Government Act 2020, councillors who have a conflict of interest in respect to a matter being considered at this meeting must A, disclose the conflict of interest in the manner required by the Council's Governance Rules 2020, and B, exclude themselves from the decision-making process in relation to the matter, including any discussion or vote on the matter at any council meeting, delegated committee, and any action in relation to this matter. Councillors, do we have any conflicts of interest tonight? Thank you. Sorry, I skipped over number 3, which is the confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. Councillors, they've been circulated. There's a recommendation that council adopt the minutes of the council meeting held on Wednesday, 9th of August 2023. Move it for that, please. Councillor Hogan and the seconder. Councillor Warren, any discussion? All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Questions from the public. Mr. O'Toole, would you like to handle the?
I would, Mayor. Yes, there's a number of questions tonight, but before we get to that, I wanted to provide a response to a question that we took on notice at the July council meeting, and this question was from Kelvin Granger and Dean Hurlston, and the question went as followed: can council please advise the dollar amount of cost shifting from state government they estimate they incurred in the 2022-23 financial year? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Toole. Now, as soon as this one is basically an operational one, I will ask for a response from the Director of Corporate and Organisational Performance.
Thank you, Mayor. And through you, response to this question being cost shifting as a concept occurs when the responsibility for and the cost of providing a certain service, concession, asset or regulatory function is shifted from one sphere of government to another. This shift occurs without corresponding funding or revenue raising ability required to deliver that new responsibility. While general areas of cost shifting are known in the sector, quantifying these costs can be an extremely complex task and would require specific methodologies in place to ensure that data integrity and comparability could be maintained. So in that instance, Buloke Shire Council is not in a position to quantify and figure on cost shifting from other levels of government at this stage. We would refer the questioner to the Legislative Council Economy and Infrastructure Committee's upcoming inquiry into local government funding and services. The committee will investigate local government funding and service delivery in Victoria, including cost shifting from state and federal governments to local councils. This inquiry is likely to establish the specific methodologies required to undertake any economic analysis of these issues. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Nedlin. So questions today, Mr. O'Toole.
Thank you, Mayor. The first question that we received today was from Mr. Kevin O'Day, and it goes as follows: what is the Shire of Buloke's policy position on the voice referendum? Where are ratepayers and residents able to access the Shire's policy on the voice and its reason for saying?
Thank you, Mr. O'Toole. Answer: council, like most local governments, remain neutral in the relation to the voice referendum. There is no policy on this matter.
Thank you, Mayor. And the next question is also from Mr. O'Day, and it goes as follows: various public and government bodies have already committed to a reconciliation action plan, including the City of Melbourne, Monash Council, East Gippsland Shire Council. The RAPs are based on strong relationships with First Nations peoples, culture and respect. Will the Shire of Buloke commit to embarking on a RAP? And if so, when will this be commenced?
Thank you, Mr. O'Toole. The council commenced work on a reconciliation action plan in 2022. It would be disingenuous to put a timeline on how long it would take to complete this piece of work, given the nature of the consultation required to establish a RAP.
Thank you, Mayor. The next question is from Jackie Healy and goes as follows. I have several concerns with regards to the emus currently residing on Mount Witchyproof. I would like to know exactly what is currently happening with the emus, especially as I am concerned for their safety. Why does the council have funds to spray weeds on the mount, but no funds to provide care for the emus? Why can grant funding possibly be found to move emus, something that is clearly not in the best interest of the emus, but none to enable the emus to remain on the mount, especially after a large number of people have recently signed a petition to leave the emus on the mount? Why is council so keen to move the emus on? Are there plans for the land that the birds currently occupy that the council has not disclosed?
Thank you, Mr. O'Toole. There is at no stage, there is no status change for the emus on Mount Witchyproof. They remain safely domiciled there. Council receives external state funding for the weed treatment. There is no such funding streams open for the emus. There is no funding to move the emus either, and that's not true. I cannot address the petition referred to as I've not seen it, nor has it been submitted to council. Council is still considering all options in relation to the emu population and has never made a decision in relation to moving them.
Thank you, Mayor. The next question is from Russell Healy. And Mayor, this question is repetitive of the previous question from Jackie Healy. And under our governance rules, section 100, clause 6D, you as chair can deem that a question will not be read if it was repetitive of a question already answered, whether at the same meeting or at an earlier meeting. Mayor?
Thank you. And I have deemed that that question is repetitive and will not be read tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. The next question is from Samantha Henry. It goes as follows. I'm writing to inquire about the emus that reside on Mount Witchyproof Flora and Fauna Park. The emus are a Witchyproof icon and are causing no harm. They, in fact, add to Witchyproof's value and character. What is happening to the emus? Funding has been attained to move the emus. However, why can't that funding be repurposed to leave the emus where they are, spray the weeds and assist in keeping them there? What are council's plans with the land should they make the wrong decision and move the birds? A significant number of people have signed a petition to keep the emus, clearly showing they are an important aspect of life in Witchyproof to locals and tourists, yet council seems to be evasive in their plans and show a lack of connection to the people they represent. It's incredibly disappointing and concerning and leaves many worried about what will happen to the birds as well as what council's plans to do with the land. In this current climate of the need to care for and support the environment, I urge council to be on the right side of history and not make a foolish mistake. Please support the emus and keep them at the park.
Thank you, Mr. O'Toole. I also deem that some of that question is repetitive and will not provide an answer, but the second part I will. Council has been extremely open in its approach to the emu population, even investing in a working group involving numerous stakeholder groups to work together collaboratively. This group was unfortunately subject to a range of tactics outside the spirit of the group and is currently suspended.
Thank you, Mayor. The next question is from Robert Healy. And again, under the governance rules, section 106D, you as chair can deem this question repetitive.
As I do, I find the question extremely repetitive and will not be, has been answered previously.
Thank you, Mayor. The next question is from Jessie Miller, and again, under the governance rules, you can deem this question repetitive.
I've so deemed that it's repetitive and will not will be addressed in the previous answers.
Thank you, Mayor. And next question from Sarah Mudway, and again, under the governance rules, you can declare if this question is repetitive.
And as I have done with that one as well.
Thank you, Mayor. That's all the questions that we have for tonight.
Thank you. And I'd just like to read a closing statement. Council did receive a number of other emails on the emus as well. Under Council's government rules, these did not constitute submissions to public question time. However, in the spirit of Council's community engagement practices, I'd like to provide the following statement that addresses some of the matters raised here, which are very similar to the questions read already tonight. Council has no plans to move the emus population on Mount Witchyproof and has certainly not made a decision of that nature. This is at best falsehood and at worst scaremongering. Another misconception is that council has funding to move the birds. This is not true. Council has no budget for any activity relating to the emu population. I'd have to take the unfortunate step on Monday of this week of suspending the Mount Witchyproof Emu Working Group when the group was informed of a petition being circulated by members of that working group. At its inception, the council hoped to work alongside other stakeholders in a truly harmonious way. However, the group has suffered due to non-attendance and differing approaches by some against the spirit of which the group was formed. Council has again today reached out to the Orr family with an offer to support the voluntary care of the emu population. Our very small and sparsely resourced team are spending a disproportionate amount of time dealing with this matter, and council hoped that it would be worked through together in part of the working group. But that now seems unlikely given the degree and the desires of others. Thank you.
Mr Mayor, are we over those questions of you on these? So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Milne. Item 7, report on Council Assembly. Council, we have a recommendation that Council note the report of Council Assembly meetings held on the 28th of July, 2nd and 16th of August 2023. Can I have a mover for that, please?
Yeah, I can move that to me.
Councillor Milne, a seconder. Councillor Simpson, any discussion, comments? All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Correspondence initiated by Council. The Office of the CEO.
Yeah, no, nothing there to report this month, Mayor. Thank you.
We've got a recommendation that the. Well, I don't think we've been put there.
Recommendation will be prepared.
We'll worry about that one. Letters of congratulation and recognition of achievement awards. Office of the CEO.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Yes, so there is a recommendation for us to write to Rachel Colbert on the Varna Gala Award, making it into the final 6. Mayor, I'm wondering if Council have any other letters this month they want us to send through.
Councillor Simpson.
Natasha Hogan. Natasha was a member of the Australian Deaf Bowls team at the 9th International Championships. Natasha competed this September 2023 in Edinburgh, Scotland.
Thank you. Any others, councillors? I have a recommendation that council acknowledge and congratulate the persons and or groups mentioned in the report for their achievements. Should somebody care to move that, please? Councillor Warren and seconded by Councillor Simpson. All those in favour? That's carried. 7.4, planning applications received, monthly update, community development.
Thank you, Mayor. Through the council, this report provides information on planning applications under consideration by staff and the status of each of these applications.
Thank you. Councillors, we've got a recommendation that council note information contained in the report of planning applications under consideration by staff and the status of each of these applications. I'll get a mover and a seconder for those, please. Councillor Warren, Councillor Milne. Any discussion, questions?
Question, the Mayor. I noticed at the top of this list, which has been there since March of this year, is an application for a place of assembly at the event centre at Gilford. Do we have any concrete updates? What seems to be the sticking point on moving this particular application forward, or are there some systemic problems in regard to getting this anywhere at the state? I just think that it should be a fairly straightforward sort of application. We are talking about a place that holds a significant event which attracts 10,000 people. A purpose-built site. And my information is this event is in jeopardy.
Thank you, councillor Warren.
Mayor, through you, I'll take councillor Warren's question and notice and provide an update as
Thank you.
Good.
Mr. Mayor, might just make a comment on that as well, that since we've been dealing with this particular applicant, have we not had the best of cooperation from him and his team? So if it's anything to do with the applicant and his team, I find that rather surprising that stuff hasn't come back like we've requested, because we've always made comment in the past that that it's been the applicant has been more than willing to fulfil the request. If I'm wrong in saying that, I'd like at some stage to be told why. But if there's stuff that's outside our control that's holding this up, I'd really like to think that we could get on with it. And I know that the staff will be, but it's very important. I think this is the biggest event in the Shire.
Thank you, councillor Milne. Councillor Simpson.
If I could just add to the comments of the previous two councillors, this doesn't just jeopardise the main event that's held at this area, but also this area is made available to groups within the Shire to be able to use these facilities on irregular basis as needed.
Councillor Simpson. All right, put that to the vote. And all those in favour? Yeah, that's carried. Thank you. 7.5, building permits monthly update. Thank you, Mr. Fitzgibbon.
Thank you again, Mayor, and through the councillors. This is your standard monthly report providing information on building permits approved for the month of August.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgibbon. Council's got a recommendation that council note information contained in the report on building permits approved by staff from 1 August 2023 to 31 August 2023. Can I get a mover? Second for that, please. Councillor Hogan, Councillor Milne. Questions or comments, Councillor Hogan? Councillor Milne?
No.
The other councillor?
Thank you.
All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. 7.6, status of action of past council meetings resolutions. Councillors, we have a recommendation that council note the status of action report for council resolutions documented in this list. I'll get a mover for seconder for those, please.
Yeah.
Councillor Milne, seconder. Councillor Hogan, questions, comments? Councillor Milne, you'll be first on that one.
I'll waive my opportunity.
Yeah. Councillor Hogan. Councillor Simpson.
I know I keep asking the same thing each month, but have the letters following the budget delegations, which we are told are completed, have they actually left the building and been sent?
Yes, through the mayor, yes, they have, Councillor Simpson, and we've had follow-up feedback from some of the applicants as well, which we're also following up. But yes, they have been. Thank you.
Any further questions? No comments? All those in favour? Against? It's carried. 8, general business. 8.1, policy reports is nil. 8.2, management report, customer experience charter. Community development, Mr. Fitzgibbon.
Thank you, Mayor, and again through you, councillors, the purpose of this report is to adopt the customer experience charter, having undertaken a community engagement process with the charter in draft form. The charter guides council officers' interaction with the community and is an expression of council's commitment to providing a high standard of service and ensuring consistency and sustainability of service delivery. During the consultation period of the draft charter, council launched a campaign addressing occupational violence to our staff. The campaign, the tagline, "Council does care, listen, talk, respect," has been included in the final charter. Councillors, tonight we bring the customer experience charter for adoption.
Thank you, Mr Fitzgibbon. Council, we've got a recommendation that Council 1, adopt the Customer Experience Charter, and 2, place the Customer Experience Charter on Council's website and promote it. Get someone to move that, a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Simpson and a second. Councillor Hogan. Questions, Councillor Simpson? Councillor Hogan?
No.
Councillor Mill?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a general question as to the amount of response we might have had from the general public.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Milne. Through you, we had no submissions to our draft customer experience
Isn't
charter.
that disappointing that there's given an option and nobody can do it? But we hope that the charter suits everybody, and that both sides of the desk can get it right and understand what it means. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mill. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. Thank you. 8.2.2, licence Fast Cities Australia Proprietary Limited trading as EV Networks. Infrastructure and delivery. Mrs Hugh.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and through you. This report is presented to Council recommending a 15-year licence be granted to Fast Cities Australia Proprietary Limited, trading as EV Networks, part of the land 68A Wood Street, Donald, for the purpose of an EV charging station. Under the proposed lease, the EV charger will be owned, operated and maintained by EV Networks. As a precursor to Council formally considering issuance of any lease or licence not advertised in the budget, which is occurred in this instance, Council resolved to commence community engagement in relation to the proposed lease at its July meeting this year. The community engagement period has closed in August of this year, and no submissions have been received.
Thank you, Mrs Hugh. Councils have a recommendation that Council, following the consultation period in accordance with Section 115 of the Local Government Act 2020, grant a licence to Fast Cities Australia Proprietary Limited, trading as EV Networks, for part of the land being Lot 1 of Title Plan 174450, contained in the Certificate of Title, Volume 9363, Folio 257, 68A Wood Street, Donald, on the following terms. A, 15-year licence commencing on the 14th of September, including one further option of 5 years, and B, the licence fee of 5% of the net operating income payable in arrears on each anniversary of the commencement date during the term, and 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to undertake the administrative process necessary to enable Council to fulfil its functions under Section 115 of the Local Government Act 2020. Do I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Warren and Councillor Milne. Discussion. Councillor Warren. Councillor Milne.
No, I think we need to move on this very quickly.
Thank you. Councillor Milne.
I wouldn't like to disagree with Councillor Warren and say that we don't need to move on quickly, but no, it's this will be a welcome addition to Don. And as discussed earlier, I think we've noted that there are a number now appearing on the Sunraysia Highway up and down the length of it, but certainly a much needed facility if we're going to embrace.
Thank you. Other councillors? Councillor Hogan.
I'd just like to say that I think the council contribution of $50,000 towards this project is money extremely well spent, and it will be definitely an asset to the travellers in the emerging electric world.
Thank you, Councillor Hogan. Councillor Simpson. All those in favour?
Yep.
Yep, that's carried. 8.3, financial reports. We have none. 8.4, organisational reports. We have none. 8.5, reports from Councillor Hogan.
As listed on my monthly report, I just want to note, at the Shire Audit Committee meeting, which was held yesterday, it was really pleasing to hear the external auditor speak so well of Nathan, our finance manager, and his team. And he was very complimentary of the set of financial statements that have been prepared for him, which a lot of work had gone into, with no significant adjustments required. So good job, Nathan and team.
Councillor Susan.
Probably to have noticed that I have attended the VNI community meetings, and been very interested in the news, regarding these meetings. And I have attended the audit and risk committee meeting, which is always a very informative meeting, and just trying to think of the word, collaboration of our financial and risk management.
Thank you. Councillor Mill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of certainly attended the VNI West update in Charlton, which I found to be interesting, and I guess we'll be all waiting to hear what the outcome of the Supreme Court ruling would be, which should be concluded. When was that?
That was completed today.
Today, so it'd be interesting to hear the outcome of that. But the other notable delegated committee was the Sunraysia Highway Improvement Committee. Met on the 22nd of August, and one of the concerning things in there is that we were allocated $10 million in the federal budget, federal election, 2 elections ago. We've spent some of that money on what was a blown out situation at the Rainbow Buloke Road intersection, McLaughlin's Road on the Sunraysia Highway, where I think we had 2 or 3 cost rises within the time frame of that, and the most significant one, the last one being for remnant vegetation to be to pay for offsets. So we've used about $2.5 million out of that $10 million. And the disappointing thing is that the balance of that money is now under state government 90-day review that was the Minister for Roads, which is a bit disappointing that the federal government can hand it out and the state government can put it under review. So we're not sure where that's going, but it's certainly with some of the others that have been under the 90-day review with the ministers, they have been cut and money allocated in other directions. So the other concerning part is the intervention standards that are currently used by Vic Roads, Rural Roads Victoria, and their standards at the moment are saying that a pothole has to be 18 inches across or something before they will look at it to fix it. To me, it makes no sense that if the pothole's the size of the cup, plug it up, and it mightn't get that big. But so we're doing some work on that to try to probably get that reviewed. It won't be done in a hurry, of course, and it won't be done anywhere soon to fix the existing potholes and things. But our roads are getting notably worse. The Sunraysia Highway is no different. Although one of the good things is that we've still got a couple of intersections within the Buloke Shire that are still on top of the list as far as priority, and number one being the Birchip Byways intersection, and Donald Camp Street, Houston Street and Wood Street intersection has jumped into second place there at the moment. So we're but the other disappointing thing, I guess, is that our rep from our area, Bruno, hasn't showed up and seems to be uncontacted. So we're dealing through Angela, who the other area rep who regularly attends and provides a briefing. Next meeting's the 21st of November in Sonata, and we're hoping to get some opposition and local members of the Met there to talk to us as well.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Warren.
Thank you, Mayor. There was a number of meetings attended, but that's one of the highlights. Was last week the 30th anniversary of the establishment of the men's shed movement, and to celebrate that, the Men's Shed Association conducted a tour de shed where they, if you like, started at Tongala, where I suppose the first official shed started, and they moved their way through Victoria to South Australia, Buloke, where sort of the shed movement, not as such, but that's where it started 30 years ago. They travelled through Charlton and they ended up in Donald last Tuesday evening, last week, and there was a great evening put together by the Donald Shed. Professor Barry Golden, who actually, he wrote the men's shed history, shoulder to shoulder. He gave a sparkling presentation and lots of stories and anecdotes, and also he spoke fondly of the late Sophie Valance, who established the shed at Donald back in 2006, and he was very effusive in his praise for Sophie and what he did. And on a personal fan note, as part of that touring group, there was a bloke who may be remembered by people called John Paul, JPY, back in the day for those baby boomers that may have watched Countdown. So this councillor got his jollies, had the photo taken, so it's been in the pool room, but it was a great night, fantastic casserole team, and everyone really celebrated in the I suppose the true spirit of sheds. I mean, it's really amazing what they do in communities, and I mean every community has a shed that does something, and you know we would be lost without them. There's also on a, I suppose, better note given I think what the next day or so was Are You OK Day. These are places where men can go and they can talk and they can feel that they're welcome and they feel valued, and certainly that was well on display last week. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Warren. My Mayor's month is attached, but I just wanted to make a comment on the Advanced Sea Lake meeting that we attended a couple of Mondays ago, and thank the councillors that were there. It was a good evening, and those councillors that don't know that Terry Bailey has now extended the submission thing for another till the 21st of this month, so that's good. He has listened to us. I'd like to thank Terry in this meeting for taking my calls and answering my emails very promptly. He's been very good at that. He has not missed a beat when I've asked questions. I received over 30 calls from the Sea Lake community regarding this matter, this land claim, and to be able to get the answers directly out of Terry and get back to these people has been good. So I do want to just make mention of Terry in this meeting tonight, but the rest of my report's in there. Thank you. 9, other business, and 9.1 is a notice of motion, and I see the presenter is Councillor Graham Mill.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Certainly, this notice of motion is in relation to the introduction of the windfall gains tax on land, and the purpose of the report is for council to consider writing to the Minister of Planning on the impacts of the small rural communities on the introduction of this tax. It means that trying to change from one zone, planning zone to another for the benefit of getting housing up could be quite an expensive operation. From the 1st of July 2023, the windfall gains tax applies to all land rezoned by a planning scheme amendment that results in a value uplift to the land of more than $100,000. In determining the value uplift, all the land owned by the person or group and subject to that rezoning is taken into account. So I guess to have a discussion on it, I mean, the recommendation is that council write to the Minister for Planning on the impacts on small rural communities of the introduction of the windfall gains tax. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mills. I would take it that you would move that.
I will move that. Thank you,
That's
sir.
very good. And a seconder, please, Councillor Warren. Councillors, other questions or discussions?
Just just an observation. We probably all received the government news, like, you know, if you don't subscribe, via email in the last 8 hours. One of the lead stories in the government news is a regional council or small rurals can compete for talent by promoting local housing affordability rather than big pay packets, which is great comfort for us as councillors to think that we have a range of affordable housing which is better than the cities. But this sort of attitude by the state government cuts us off at the knees. I mean, the fact that, you know, there could be people who are looking for a lifestyle in these regions, we're going to be stymied by not being able to provide that, so that, you know, you can have your duck and your horse or your goat or your sheep or, heaven forbid, some other feathered bird flying around your property. But I think the more noise we make, the better, because if they, you know, if they want to help us, that'd be the best way they can by excluding us from this windfall gain space.
Thank you, Councillor Oram. Councillors, other questions, comments? Councillor Mill?
Further, through you, Mr. Mayor, further to what Councillor Ryder said, and he's been alluded to the rural living zone that we've been talking about in the past. The ability for small communities in the bush to provide quality housing opportunities, and in a lot of cases that requires new land to be zoned, in that in a lot of cases the existing blocks that are available for building on are still available for some reason. They've been available for a long time. They either have a terrible outlook or hard to get to, or just not right for what people want. So this added hurdle for us to be able to provide opportunity for people to come and grow our shire like we would rather do than have it decline in population, and be able to attract people that we desperately need to fill positions and opportunities within our shire. This is another roadblock, voluntarily, to get over if we don't get some cooperation from the state government, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mill. Other councillors? Councillor Hogan?
I think this is a good recommendation, because I can't see that the state government would have foreseen all of the effects on small communities to the degree that they've haven't exempted them. So I'm hoping that if the number of small community councils like ours puts that forward, that it will be changed.
Thank you, Councillor Hagan. Councillor Simpson?
Only that my reading of it is that the government thinks it can get a windfall gain from large development areas, and we certainly do not come into that category and never will.
Councillor Simpson. So all those in favour? Against, that's carried. 9.2, questions from councillors.
Nobody else has got. I'll lead off with one I wanted to ask earlier. Mr. Mayor, with the emus on the mountain, when we had our meeting up there to formulate this working party, there was some suggestion from an elder that there was plenty of money available for things like this. Have we as a shire had any offer of money from the Indigenous side to look after their emus?
I can answer that one as far as I know is no. Mr. Fitzgibbon, would you like to elaborate at all?
Yeah, that's correct, Mayor, through you. So no, but I think on the mountain, the suggestion from the elder on the day was that they would have funding streams available to them, not to work together to help understand what those funding streams were and apply for them. But there's been no applications.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Fitzgibbon. I guess to me this seems a little bit one-sided at this point in time. I'd love to see this discussion continue But I think there has to be some give and take on both sides of this argument. And certainly that we as a small shire are being expected to, and we want to do a lot of things, mind you, in a tourism betterment for community area, which this could be if it was done right. We just physically can't find the cash, and if there's cash floating around from departments that are more readily funded for this sort of thing, then we would gladly accept it and then have a way forward of discussing the situation that we've got. So I guess I'm a little bit miffed as to why it's all we want on one side, and no, here's a little bit to help you along coming with it.
Thank you, Councillor Mill. Other questions?
Just, Mayor, if I may, Councillor Mill raised a very interesting point in regard to grants. So, for those that were at the risk meeting, if you like, a cautionary note, and that's what audit risk identified that without grants, this organisation is backs to the wall. We are exposed significantly, and it's probably one of our downfalls. So, to look at the organisation and say, the Shire can provide it, we don't have the capacity. And that was made very clear by audit risk. That our reliance on grants, whilst it's good to get them, creates its own set of problems for this organisation. You take grants out of the equation, we just barely get enough in rates to cover the staff budgets. And that is the reality of this organisation.
Thank you, Councillor Warren. And just on that, I've made it very clear at the evening working group and up on the mountain that council has no cash and will not be providing any cash for the emus, and that stance has not changed. Thank you. Other questions, councillors? Councillor Simpson.
Only to note that we have Australia Day nominations coming up, and that the council will be sponsoring Citizen of the Year, Young Citizen of the Year and Community Event. And our cut-off dates for these are sooner rather than later, and that anybody who wishes to nominate should really start to get those wheels rolling as soon as possible.
Councillor Simpson. Councillor Hogan.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I've had some discussions with local people in a couple of the towns, and now that the weather's heating up, will there be any training in use of the new equipment for the pools, the inflatable pool screen for one thing? And is that to go? Some of the towns have said their pool committees have disbanded over the years. Is there going to be a push to, in towns like Birchip and Berrybullet, towns like that, to put together the old pool committees or some sort of focus group to facilitate training in the usage of this new equipment?
I would say that might be your department, Mr. Fitzgibbon.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and through Councillor Hogan. So, councillors' facilities area has been developed very recently. We're currently recruiting for that structure that will take charge of the pools and implementation of such as that. So that recruiting is going really well. I'll take the questions and suggestions on notice and pass those across to our manager of community development as that area is being heard. For this question.
Thank you.
Are we expecting a rules review? What a policy or a strategy?
Yes, it is. So we've committed to that in the issues and
Yeah. So that would be something that, yes, would certainly see that.
Thank you, Councillor Warren. Councillor Mill.
I have a number, Mr. Mayor.
There you go. Floor is yours, sir.
Which some will just be comments and some will, I will be seeking an answer on. In our rate notices, we had this lovely little flyer, glass out. Now it disturbs me immensely to find that the only places listed on here are the 5 major towns, when we have specifically asked time and time again, will there be facility in the small towns? And I've been assured there would be. Why is it that they're advertising only these 5 large towns with absolutely no mention of anything for the smaller towns? I am quite disappointed that this is out and it's in the newspaper as well, because I've asked the question at least 5 times in council as to what's going on with the small towns. Oh, yes, there'll be something there. This gives me the impression that there's nothing. Can I have an answer on that one?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So there to answer Councillor's point, these are the initial skip-ins that have been established at our major landfill sites. There are additional skip-ins which will be provided to the smaller townships, which is funded through a separate funding stream. So our focus has been making sure that we commit to this funding stream with those five sites, and then by the end of the calendar year, we will have the remainder of the skips means established, and further information will be made available to the community.
Thank you, Mrs. Hugh. My response to that is why weren't we made aware that this was the 5 minor towns were under a different funding stream? Because I was always of the understanding it was always in the first funding stream that we had. And then why couldn't we just put another line on this saying small towns will be catered for very shortly than just to leave them out altogether? I mean, we are damaging our own brand. We get our survey back and we're low. Well, here's why, because we're not telling the story. We haven't got the guts to say what's going on. I'm disappointed, really. You know, as far as this is concerned, I mean, this has been going on for at least 4 years. It's been going on a long time, and we still haven't delivered. And now we've told half the story, haven't told the rest of it. Mr. Mayor and Mr. CEO, I'm not happy with this situation at all.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, could I please just make a comment on that? I had a elderly lady ring me from Sea Lake today, and she's concerned that the drop-off points for the glass are all out at the transfer stations, and she said there has to be some central point within the town for people that don't drive or can't get out there to be able to drop off their glass. Is that going to happen?
Yes, so through the Mayor, the proposed locations for the townships are within the townships, which may include recreation reserves or places. So we can provide an update on the proposed locations that are not breaking.
So in Sea Lake, there will be, because Sea Lake's one of the 5 main towns that's getting run out of the transfer station.
Yeah, I'll need to take that specific question in terms of Sea Lake on notice, but the intention is to provide additional locations within the townships.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
My next question, Mr. Mayor, is with relation to Darren Barker, who rang me on Friday last week, wanting to know about the road that he requested to be graded to the back of his property last November. He was given an undertaking that it would be graded in February this year. It's now September, and nothing's happened. His other question was, will the grain receival sites be having any attention to their entrances prior to grain receival? And in particular, he asked about Wade Humphrey's storage further out of Nullarbor. I guess I'm happy to take that answer on notice, but Darren has had several requests for this road to be done. When it had been promised in February, it's 6 months ago. The others, a couple I want to make comments on that I drive around on a regular basis, and I'm interested to know whether all our flood road work has been signed off, and whether the signs that say road closed that are tipped over on the side of the road or whatever else, can be picked up and brought back, so we don't have to buy new ones. Because there's a number of them out and about, and some that I can show you that have been there for 5 or 6 years. I've also noted tonight on the way over that the grader is working through the area of Korak, and I guess short on having requests for some of these roads to be graded, they fit into the road hierarchy plan, road management plan. But there's one particular road there, and I think there's a few of these that we probably should look at, that unless they're requested, they just don't get done because nobody uses it. And you know, to me, that's 40, 50, 20 or $30,000 that probably could have gone into a more strategic road, as opposed to one that's leading to one bloke's back gate that hasn't requested for a road upgrade. So I'm interested to see. I know we haven't adopted that road management plan yet, but it's to come back. But I'm just interested to see whether that's going to be our status quo going forward, that we're going to do every road as they fall due, whether they need it or not. Because I think that's not what our people want. They want the, if they want those roads done, they'll request them. If they request them, then that's fine. The next question I've got is, or comment I've got is an answer on the Shamrock flagstone situation that was removed in the footpath area. Have we got an answer on that was raised the other day?
I haven't received any, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, I haven't received any further information that are provided with the council briefing.
I thought there was to be some follow-up done because there was suggestion at that meeting that somebody had been able to buy the stuff of the contractor, and there was going to be a follow-up to see whether that was actual or not. Because I've copped a fair bit of flack, I don't know whether anybody else has, but I copped an absolute mouthful the other day that something as significant as the Shamrock, that nobody had taken the time to say that this area was had special significance, and I guess it probably wasn't reflected in the footpath hierarchy that went round earlier in the piece for all towns to be considered. But the other thing I note with the footpath improvements is that while we were notified that they were footpath improvements, we weren't actually told what streets and what parts were going to be done. I don't think in any of the public information, which to me, you know, I could ask the situation in Watching. I said, Councillor Watching's going to get some done, but where, what? And I guess unless we're telling people is just exactly where we're going to be and what we're doing, then we expect to cop black when we do something that they consider to be out of order, out of line. So, some time ago, I requested a sign be put on Payne Street, which is off Percy Street, in front of Mr. Mervyn Hogan's property. His property address is actually Payne Street, and at that time, I was told that the sign had been done. Sometime later, after that request, I was told the sign had been done. It's still not there. My discussion with another member of staff to do with roads, signs and footpaths and things was that it was mixed up with the sign that comes off the main highway that goes up behind Brian's, what's that street called? Common Street. So there was a mix up with that situation, but that sign hasn't arrived, and that property owner is still wanting to know when it's coming. The last update I'm keen to hear about is the container deposit scheme, as to whether there's any word on when we might be seeing some infrastructure, because we're seeing it in Bunnyong, already got their container deposit machine sitting there. There's some of them along. They're starting to move around. I'm just interested to know whether there's where our nearest one will be, and or what will be our other options for delivering cans, other than having to travel 100 k's to get them recyclable. Sorry, not just cans, but recyclable. So I'm keen to hear an update on that at some stage, please.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Is anybody able to update Councillor on any of those at the minute, or we'll come back to those at a briefing?
Yes.
Make a briefing. Thank you, Councillor Moore. Other questions, councillors? Councillor
I just
Hogan?
had a request today to know, will the Very Buloke playground and the other playgrounds be finished by Christmas? When the grandchildren turn up? So what is the, what is the timeline for those?
The project completion date, yeah, I'll
Yeah.
make that on notice.
Thank you.
There'll be a monthly project update at the next.
Thank you.
Any other councillor questions? No, very good, thank you. 9.3 urgent business. If we have nil. 9.4, any other business? 9.1, matters that may exclude the public, there is nil, which brings us to item 10, meeting closed. I thank you for your attendance, I thank the gallery for your attendance, and declare the meeting closed. Thank you.
Thank you.